Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. We're in a little bit of a different scenario today, primarily because I do not have the energy to be in my streaming room, so it's probably a little bit lo-fi, especially audio-wise. You'll probably notice more than anything. Visually it looks pretty much the same. Obviously we're vertical because I'm using my phone. I could have done a bit more of an elaborate setup, but I don't have it today. I was out last night really late. I'm also just got back from holiday, so it's like double whammy. And then as well as that, like just there's a million things. But long story short, I'm here. We're doing the podcast, and we're doing another one that we usually go very lo-fi for these videos anyway. But we are doing a what I'm reading / what I've been reading. So we'll start off pretty straightforward. So this is a really interesting one, actually. A little bit different to what I usually read. When I was in the airport on the way to my holiday, Cyprus, which was really nice, by the way, I saw this. Dealing with Difficult People, Emotional Intelligence. And it has a lot of different little articles that just kind of really try and help you deal with conflict, discussing kind of cold conflict versus hot conflict, and just, you know, generally trying to help you better deal with the situation, but also how to understand the opposite side of those situations that you might end up in as well, which again is the kind of thing that the podcast's about in a way. So it's really nice to pick that up as a personal thing, but as because I struggle with these types of things sometimes. I struggle with a bit of conflict now and again, but it was really nice to read as both for the podcast and for me personally, if that makes sense. And then where do I want to go from here? I'm doing all my physical stuff first. I'm going to kind of talk more the books I've been listening to, etc. So I actually I actually bought this whilst I was on holiday, got back and read it in about a few hours later. This is Star Wars: The Edge of Balance, not Ballast. The Edge of Balance Precedent. And this is a book that details kind of a little bit more about Arkoff, who was in the first two Edge of Balance books, but he's the focus of this one because obviously it's a prequel. What is interesting about this one, though, is it does slightly advance the plot of what's going on at the moment. The Nihil were looking for something that was on Banshee and had been hidden there years before. So this was like it was nice to see the current plot move forward at the same time as the old the previous 150-year prior plot was going on. So that was really good, and it was really fun, actually. Really good art. Just every page was quite dark as well, but that's kind of what you got with this anyway. The first two were very much the same. They were that vibe, which is really nice. It's nice to see a little bit of a different version of Star Wars through the lens of these books. So that's a great one. I would highly recommend, obviously, read the other two first and generally read the High Republic to get into this, but a very good book. Now, this one I talked about when I first got it about a year ago, and it took me a long time to get through it because I was reading other books and I was jumping back and forth and just generally losing interest and gaining interest, etc. But I have finally finished Padawan by Kirsten White. And I've got to be honest, this wasn't my favourite Star Wars book I've ever read, primarily because it's a young adult plot, and it's very much, the spoilers basically, but the plot is that the children on a planet get lost. It's very much, what's that movie? Not Hunger Games, the other one. The one that's very much like Hunger Games, but they get lost. There's loads of kids that get lost on a planet and they have to try and survive there against the planet that's trying to kill them. I can't think of the name of the movie at this point, or the books or whatever. But it's that. And I can't for the life of me think what it is, but that. And yeah, it was okay. But you couldn't really get invested in the new characters because you knew they were only going to be around for the one book, and you can't really get invested, not infested. You can't really get invested in Obi-Wan either because you know that any trials and tribulations he's facing here ultimately work out. I think the most interesting thing that happens in this book is it shows how he meets Dex, which wasn't that interesting in the end. But It was okay. It's not like, I think the way it's written is good. I think it's a good book, editorially, so to speak. I think as regards its content, not my favorite, but that's okay. That's okay. And so now we move to pictures. This was Justice Like Lightning, the Thunderbolts. This is the origin of the Zemo's Thunderbolts. This is when the team is actually villains masquerading as heroes during a time when a lot of heroes aren't alive/around. And I love this. The thing is with these, it makes you so hungry for the next part of the story. Just in case people didn't know, this is the Marvel comic. But yeah, so I feel like I didn't speak on that, but yeah, so you have characters basically masquerading as heroes, which is an incredibly interesting concept from the off. But there's like lots going on inside this, because you have a hero who joins the team who is still a hero. So like, she is basically on the inside of this big conspiracy that no one knows about. And you have Moonstone, who's kind of going off against Zemo, but they have history, because if you remember, there's a comic where they invade Avengers Mansion together to try and take down the Avengers, and that failed. So this is a really interesting book, and I think it's got some really interesting points of view, especially from, like I say, Moonstone and Zemo's perspective. Really good read. With these, that's what I was trying to say to begin with, I almost feel there's a few that I'd be like, oh my gosh, once I finish these, which I never will because I'm that type of person, but once I finish these, I'd love to read the rest of this run. So that was definitely one of these ones. Now we're going to kind of move into the more kind of just talking, like there's no props. But basically, I've been reading a lot of other stuff. Actually, I will say I did read a little bit more of June. I put June down for a while, just because I wasn't in that heavy reading mindset. And June is a book, I've only read 2 books in my life that basically don't have chapters. June is one of them. The other is Moll Flanders, which I did for my at uni, and they are taxing, because even though there's natural pauses, and especially changes in perspective in June, it's the fact that you don't have a thing that says chapter at the top. You feel like you just keep going. Because like the parables from Princess Irulan are like they're there, yeah, and they feel like a natural divide, but they happen halfway down a page, and so you feel like, oh well, I'm gonna finish this page. You get conflicted between, do I finish the page, do I finish with Princess Irulan? Luckily, this book also has like a little rib in it, so you can keep track of your stuff. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's a book that you've got to pay attention to, though, and that's why I left it for a while. I'm glad I'm coming back to it now. Now, aside from all that, I've also been, audiobook-wise, I'm listening to Convergence at the moment, which is that's a Star Wars book, High Republic, set in the prior part of the High Republic, this Phase 2 part. And I'm really enjoying it. Again, it's a very common plot. Two lovers, like 2 people unite to save 2 worlds type thing. It's not bad. It's sort of antithetical Romeo and Juliet, kind of. I suppose it just is Romeo and Juliet to a degree. I don't know if it's going to end up that way, but in the end, I don't know if the main characters are going to die. But it's a good book all the same, and I'm really enjoying the characters. The characters leap off the page quite a bit, especially because I say this all the time when I come to Star Wars audiobooks. Mark Thompson, the narrator, knocks out of the park every single time without fail. Like, the best narrator I've ever had for an audiobook. His Thrawn ones especially are amazing. So that is what I was listening to. I also started, because I was like, I was on the plane coming back, and I was like, I can't just listen to this book, and I don't really want to read anything else at the moment. So I started Anthony Daniels' biography. I Am C-3PO, I think it's called, I think. And I can't say I'm like super interested in it, because it wasn't this is really bad because I love C-3PO and one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I feel like the diction of this book was really poorly done, even though it should be a really interesting story. And don't get me wrong, the writing itself is very interesting. I don't think Anthony Daniels did as well dictating this book, narrating this book, as this is 3PO. I almost wish he did it in 3PO's voice. I know that sounds really silly, but it's true. But interesting content and a very different perspective on Star Wars to what we've had in the past. So that was really nice. So that's the audiobooks I've been listening to. I have also started, because I really fell off the bandwagon with Star Wars comics, mainly because I bought them for a long while, but then I was getting them on Marvel, not Unlimited, because that's the one I use now, but Marvel, just Marvel Comics, I think the Marvel Comics app. And I would always wait for when So, long story short, single issues on Marvel Comics are really expensive, but when they come out as a omnibus later on, they're a lot cheaper. So I didn't want to pay through the nose when I didn't have to, so to speak. But then Marvel Unlimited came into my life, and that is a small subscription that you get to basically have the back catalogue of all Marvel comics. To a point. I think you only get you're 2 or 3 months behind, which I was behind that anyway, really, essentially. So it's all the same, and now I get to read as many comics as I want in a given period. So that was really good, which is great because I actually want to read the new Scarlet Witch comic, which is on there. I noticed that. I was like, oh, but I need to get through these Star Wars comics. So with that, I am basically up to. So I read all the old Star Wars comics, from the start of the new Marvel comics to when they got up to Empire Strikes Back, but I hadn't continued on afterwards. So I went through all the Shootaroon War and all that type of stuff, but I hadn't done the stuff afterwards. So I've picked it up now. I read Empire Ascendant very quickly, and then moved through most of them. I think I'm on oh gosh. So I've went through all of them, apart from Bounty Hunters, but I think I read them before, but I don't remember, so I'm going to have to read that again. But basically, I've gotten up to not series, what's the word? Issue 13 of each one, which is the time when or 14, depending on the comic, which is the time that they start to move to the War of the Bounty Hunters storyline, which is the big introduction of Crimson Dawn, etc. So that's where I'm up to with those. So I've kind of done all those. I'm doing all those at the moment. I'm doing Bounty Hunters, Aphra, Vader, Star Wars itself, and then obviously the War of the Bounty Hunters storyline now. Which will then fall into the Crimson Reign stuff, which I'm very excited to read. So that's where I'm at with those. And then this is a little bit of a pivot, slightly, because it's not the same type of reading, but I am very excited about it, and I can't wait to play it, hopefully on the channel at some point, and that is the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. That's a mouthful. And essentially this is, for want of a better word, Marvel D&D, and it's amazing. It's really it's a really simple system from what I've read so far, and it basically allows you to do whatever you want in the Marvel universe. And I've got to be honest, my favorite piece of art. This is just look at that gorgeous art of She-Hulk, Thing, Captain Marvel, Nick Fury, and Beast. What amazing! I'm so excited to play that at some point. I hope I can play on the channel. Hope that we can maybe get a group together for that. But yeah, so that's my kind of big read now. I just got that yesterday, so that's very exciting. I can't wait to get through that as well. So that's hopefully something that will come to the channel soon. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify or otherwise, Apple Music, etc. Jump over to our YouTube channel to see more content, because we're starting to have a few different. Basically, what I always wanted to do with the channel was to kind of allow a medium, and I've said this before, similar to what Geek and Sundry used to, which was to have some big shows and kind of talk shows and stuff like that. So board meeting is the newest one. I've talked about it a little bit before, but board meeting, that's basically once a month we'll be doing a board game, like a let's come hang out, let's play a board game on a stream on the YouTube. channel, the For It's Nerd YouTube channel, and then kind of keep going forward with that and trying to build out more stuff and have some videos that are news updates, breaking news stuff over time, which I kind of do through my TikToks, as you guys know, but, you know, kind of trying to keep up with that, on top of also running Peralta's Place, of course. So, guys, really, that's it for now. I've been really enjoying getting some reading done, a lot of reading, which is nice. I didn't think I was going to do an episode like this. I thought, actually, I was going to do this episode on season 3 of Only Murders in the Building, which is a series I only just picked up, and season 3 only just dropped. I find myself finding things as they get a season, or as they get a new part to the previous stuff, as regards books, etc. Or like for example, with gaming, I got into Dragon Age just before Inquisition dropped, so I literally went through the entirety of Dragon Age back to back to back, and like that's why I think it was so instilled in me for like forevermore, basically, because I like binged it. I binged Dragon Age, which is a total side tangent, but the point stands. So yeah, I'm trying a lot of different things, trying a lot to do a lot more. I'm really scheduling myself as well. I got a whiteboard. I'm trying to schedule everything now because we're getting to a point where there's that much going on in a week that you have to schedule it. But luckily, one thing that is lucky is that Peralta's Place now has an editor again, with me changing jobs, and that's going really swimmingly, which really helps me allow me to focus on the creative side, this stuff, and then they manage to edit the gaming videos, which really helps me out and really allows me to diversify my content whilst allowing me to continue doing what I want to do. So thank you everyone for watching / listening. I hope you're having a great week / beginning of your next week. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week to discuss Blue Beetle, which I don't want to say I'm very excited about, but I am interested in, because I think it could be interesting to see where the DC universe is going. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching / listening. If you're listening on Spotify, etc., please do check out the YouTube channel. And if you're watching on YouTube, please drop a subscription or a like, etc. It really does help the channel. Thank you guys as always, and I'll see you later. Bye guys.